We at the Pubcats hold ourselves to a professional standard at all times. We also do not condone binge drinking or drinking excessive amount of alcohols at any time. Wait, what are we doing today?
Getting on the cunt.
We also hold ourselves to an extremely highly professional standard at all times.
Familiar, what does Lifeline do?
Please do not perform any of the stunts or circumstances you are about to witness at home. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back to Good Chat with the Pubcats. Tonight will be the first episode of what we're going to start calling the late night Good Chat, which is pretty well we're going to be discussing things that we would like to recollect to things you talk about with your mates at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when you're so fucked up.
Hey?
When you've been drinking all day and you fucking just think like, fuck, we need to talk about this shit. So tonight we're going to be talking about some conspiracy theories. We're going to be debunking them, believing in them, seeing what arguments we got, seeing what facts we believe, seeing how we go. So we got Clarky, Bradley, Edwards, Noah on tonight. How we doing, guys? How we feeling? It's been a fucking big one, so I think we're ready to start talking about this shit.
Yeah, no, I think I got rid of my nose, but fucking ready for this. So, yeah.
Prepared for this one, mate.
So to kick us off, who wants to kick us off? What do we believe in?
Come on, Brad. Hit us with some theories.
Brad's
dog.
been fucking.
Yeah, well, I fucking
He's
like.
been
hit us with a couple
he's been
while we've been
geeked out on
sitting here.
these conspiracy theories. Hit us with something, bro.
Like what? Like you? Nah, someone else say one first.
Okay, so I'll go with mine. Mine's a bit fucking crazy, but at the same time it makes sense. So mine is that dinosaurs are still alive, whether it's in the ocean, whether it's on land. I believe that dinosaurs still live, and like big dinosaurs, but they're like, while the theory itself is great in retrospect, there are a lot of things that go against it. So the Amazon, for example, the Amazon rainforest has been like 10% discovered. It's like the ocean, the ocean's been like 2% discovered. Like, it's fucked up. You think about all the shit that we get excited about in the world. You wake up, you get on your phone, you see all these celebrities, and you're like, oh yeah, I give a fuck about their lives. It's like, no, bro, send a fucking submarine to the fucking ocean. Let's try to discover some shit. Like, we've become that dull as a human species that we're entertained by all this nonsense.
Close. You were close. It says here, just 5% of the ocean surface.
Holy dude,
Yeah.
even worse.
Even worse.
Yeah, like when you're saying that, like makes you wonder, like, fuck, like.
But like
Like
what
5%
the
of the
fuck is
ocean.
that?
So what
Yeah,
the
like,
fuck
what
is
the-
like,
yeah,
what
where's
the
the other
fuck's-
100%?
There's all these
maybe,
like
but-
videos of UFOs like leaving the water and stuff,
this is
like
fucked
getting
up
out of the
shit.
water. So are they actually coming from space, or are they coming from beneath us? Like,
Right, that's some scary shit. You see that one that like recently and looked like a Tic Tac?
yeah,
Has
the
anyone
Tic
seen
Tac
that?
one, yeah.
And it's fucking like they reckon that they had jet pilots from the US Air Force
Yeah.
that were like watching these fucking little Tic Tacs hover over the ocean and then change direction at like 800 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, they were
And
talking
just like
about
change
like,
direction.
say you had a laser light on the wall, and you know how you can just quickly change direction with it, like that. That's what it was doing. It was
Yeah.
like, crazy.
Yeah.
But it was a thing, like it was an actual object.
Yeah.
And they thought it was a drone from another country.
And it had
and-
contact with the water, and then
Yeah.
just go,
And
and
it
that's
just
when they're like,
disappeared.
oh, yep, cool. There's actual.
So there's so
something there.
much shit like that, like, and then for example, like 5% of the ocean, that is fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Like in the scheme of things, 5% is fuck all. So, like whether that's the 5% is just the fucking surface area of the ocean, whether it's these main like shipping channels that like the cargo fucking ships travel on,
That's
because
like-
like they follow them because that's the safest way to get from point A to point B. Like what's in between them? Like that's my biggest thing is that like what fucking big ass creatures are out there. Okay, so like you look back to
if you go back to that, it's probably not so. If you really want to dive into it, and you really want to get spooky, scary with the dangers of the deep, what's to say we haven't attempted to explore more?
Yeah, we just haven't
But
come
But
back.
there's something stopping us.
Yeah.
Something hasn't come
What's
back.
to say that?
Yeah. Something's been discovered,
no,
and
there's-
then something hasn't come back.
There's a lot that the people don't know just to keep us sane. You
Yeah.
know, like there's a lot that's hidden behind the curtains to
That's-
keep us sane.
That's
So
it.
maybe when we're, pissheads like us on the drink go, oh fucking, what are we thinking of space travel? We haven't even fucking explored our whole our world.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like, if you want to dive into it, like maybe fucking there's something out there.
Yeah.
I
Maybe
believe
Brad's
that.
out there eating all
Like,
those
what kind of
submarines.
half-assed job have we done as a species on our own?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, right. 5% of the ocean, tick.
Space, let's
the
go.
land, we've done like 70% of the land, tick.
See, the other thing is
oh
that
shit!
it's probably more
Like,
so.
let's go on fucking space. Like, we haven't even fucking looked at what's in our own
But
backyard.
that's what, I mean, that's what I'm
It's
trying to
like,
say. Maybe it's like, oh, fuck the ocean. We've tried that now. There's big
Yeah.
monsters down there. Keep
No.
killing us. Let's go to space.
But
Much safer.
I'm
No air.
referencing Joe Rogan now, but there was this. He interviewed this bloke who admitted he worked at Area 51,
yeah.
and
Yeah, I've seen.
the space, like the UFOs he worked on, they reckon they found one like buried, like it was like an artifact, like a fossil, like the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like, what if there's like a civilization underwater that we just haven't discovered, and then that far advanced that they want nothing to do with us
Well, see,
up
like,
above.
a lot of people don't realize that, like, so for example, like I've said this on an earlier episode, but it's such an interesting fact. So the highest unmanned natural point on the planet is Mount Everest, obviously the highest fucking mountain in the world. They found mollusks and scallops, like fossils, at the top of Mount Everest, like towards the top. So,
Yeah,
But-
I think.
like, who's to say that fucking tens of thousands of years ago, the ocean wasn't,
soup.
like, the whole
Right,
planet was
yeah,
water.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
who's to say that it
because,
wasn't?
Again, because I believe they've found fish, what are they called?
Like skeletons or-
Yeah, like on the top of the Himalayas, and that's because
Yeah.
the water was risen. But on that, the mollusks, and that on top of Everest, what's to say that wasn't just nature? Because there has been reports of fish going up in the hole.
Oh
water thing,
yeah,
fish
like
getting
raining
sucked
fish.
up.
Yeah.
Frogs getting
Yeah.
sucked up. What's to say is
So?
when like rain gets evaporated, turns into clouds, rains.
Yeah, and get like
There's
fish,
been
eggs
there's
and
been
shit like that.
cases where fish and frogs have been sucked up into the clouds and rained back down.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
So what's to say that those mollusks?
I
were
feel like
just
that's a
part
bit of
of
an urban legend. Like they're like, oh, there's fish in my driveway. Where do they come from? No, it's just flooded, mate. They've come out of the creek.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of shit up. And, like, we have a book at home, which it's kind of like a horror movie
Mysteries
set up
of the
because we have, like, we come from my grandparents. They don't know where the fuck it came from. But the book is called Mysteries of the Unexplained. And it is fucking terrifyingly interesting, this
It is.
book, right?
Yeah.
It explores everything from like Bigfoot to paranormal activity and deals with the devil and
Yeah.
That's
little 12-year-old me fucking hell.
Yeah.
Reads
That's
it.
when it
Is
hits
this
you the
true?
worst,
What
when you're
the
like in
fuck's
that
going
grade,
on? What
like
the
I don't
fuck?
know, 4 to 6.
Yeah.
And when you start like getting real curious, you're like, oh yeah, I'll look at some freaking Slenderman did me. I was watching that. I was like, oh, but what the heck? No, I don't want to see this lanky looking bloke. This pale lanky bloke is scaring me out, man.
I watched one of those Slenderman documentaries at a mate's place when I was about 12.
Yeah, I thought it was
And-
real. I was like,
and
oh,
I
no.
didn't take a photo for like the next month on my phone because like the whole documentary was people would take these photos and then in the background they'd see the Slenderman figure
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden once they noticed him they were after him, they would die. I didn't take a photo on my camera for at least a month.
Yeah,
And even then I was going through my camera roll like looking at like fucking Slenderman like dick pics, bro. Slenderman. No, that's danger if that's not Slenderman.
Oh, yeah. If someone would make like these fan theory things, I'd full on buy them, just sitting there getting like real scared, like watching the screen in classroom or something with all my mates, all got our earphones in going, oh, yep, cool.
What the fuck is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
shit? What?
And it's just voiceover, there's no audio, like they're just
Yeah.
making something up in their
So,
head.
after I watched that documentary, I had to ride home and I fucking pedaled my ass off.
Yeah.
Well, like, are we that just, like, you know, like
We take
like we're a
everything from
curious
that.
species that like we
Yeah.
would, but like we believe everything because
Because
we don't know everything. You know, if we knew everything, we wouldn't believe everything.
Yeah, but there's
Because
another
that's as
one.
easy as it is. Like,
There's
that's as
another
simple
one
as
with
it
that
is.
alien one that I was talking about. It's like, if we did discover this thing that like warped gravity and can go zip zip zip, that's like the superpower. Like bullets can't penetrate
Yeah.
because it can control gravity.
Yeah.
Like everything's pushing away from it, so bullet can't even go there because it will just push away. If we had that technology, would we show it to the? Would the government show that to the world? Because then the Russians will be onto it. They
Yeah.
have this superpower and they could just
But
like
Russia,
saying
China.
that, like, one of my conspiracy theories is like, are we living in a matrix?
Yeah.
Like,
Where like
simulation.
where shit like that, like always
It's just
Sims.
shit. Oh.
Well, like
yeah, yeah.
I disagree with the Sims theory, like the simulation theory, and my reasoning for that is that, you know, like, why do we have such non-necessary shit happen to us? You know, like, if we were in a simulation, why do we get tiny little things like warts, for example? Like, why do we get warts that come and go?
We
Or why
have-
do we get cold sores that, like,
It's
you know, you'll
just
have a
like
cold sore for a week and then it
gambling.
goes?
It's like our probability of this. Someone would program it, be like, oh yeah, this bloke's gonna have probability of cancer. Boost, he got the bad luck. He's got cancer. That's the way we're programmed. That's the way to think about it.
that's
Yeah, fuck.
It's like,
Uh,
yeah, there's too much to back it up that I'm like, wait, we could be in a simulation. Like, we're making Minecraft, Infinite Worlds, bruh, and it goes on for days and days. We can show that we can generate, like, a world.
The movie
We-
Free Guy.
Like a
more
treadmill that
Free
where like,
Guy,
you
yeah.
just keep
We legit,
fucking
we
as
legit
long as you
leave
do
our
that shit
houses.
there.
Everything doesn't generate until we're in that space.
Yeah,
like,
but
we
like-
could be driving a Gundawindi, the road's just
Well,
freaking
what's that?
loading in as we drive away.
But
What's
you
that
really
old
think
saying?
about it.
What's that old saying? If a tree falls and nobody's around to hear it, did it really fall or something like that?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know that old saying? Like,
That's it.
exactly. That doesn't happen unless, based on your theory,
Yeah,
the tree doesn't fall
The tree-
unless
yeah.
somebody's there to see it or hear it.
yeah, exactly.
But my thing, like, you know how I just said, like, are we living in a matrix or not? Like, just like, this is my like example. Like, you know, when you're fucking like fucked up, like drunk as, and you know how you start
Never.
seeing like a car goes past and it's like, holy fuck, there's a flash. Like, it's
Nah.
everything's real slow.
I'll go one
like,
further.
like, it's like,
I'll go you one further. That when I'm
Yeah.
blackout drunk, you just wake up the next morning, and so like that's where if you were to buy into the theory of like fuck righto, like like let's say you're playing GTA for example, you're playing GTA, you drink too
yeah,
much,
that's
you just
where
wake
like
up in
I'm
bed.
coming from.
And how
yeah.
many times does that happen to people where they just drink too much and then they just wake up in
Start
their own bed?
seeing
Like there's
shit.
just loading
Yeah.
stuff.
I think there's a lot of times it doesn't happen though, because if your theory,
Respawn.
your theory of a
Yeah,
simulation,
you just respawn
your
it.
theory of a simulation is
If no,
that you individually, not everyone's in a
I
simulation.
think this
you
is the
individually in
main.
a
This is the
simulation.
main
that
plot
right?
hole. If we can make one, who says it hasn't been done before, and we're living
Yeah.
in someone else's created
Yeah.
Yeah.
simulation?
But your theory is you individually are in a simulation.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Okay. And when you say, "Oh, I got drunk, woke up next day, hammered," like, why is that? Like, oh, bro, you were doing this. Why do other people like suddenly have memories, specific memories?
because we created like NPCs.
But why
we
do they
all
have?
live in
But
the
why do
N-
they have memories that you don't remember?
Stop trying to make this work.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't know.
fucking
But why do they-
like
I'm
you're not meant to do
Why do they
that,
have memories
Parky.
that you
Like,
don't remember?
Yeah.
You have a random lady coming up to you at the street and say, "Oh my God, Hugh,
Yeah.
how's it going? Like, I haven't seen you since this
Let's
week."
do a quick
Why
piss,
would
that's alright,
that
Connor.
be some like you're going off
Quick
probability with cancer and
Exactly. Yeah.
that is out of the blue. Like, why
Yeah.
would somebody even go through that?
I don't know.
The only
There's so much that computers can do now that freaks people out. Like automatically fixes pictures up and stuff. Like you'll type in like, oh, a prawn dancing with a top hat on. It'll warp the prawn so much that it'll look so realistic. You're like, oh, yep. And I'll probably like put it in or something. But like, computers can do so much now. You're like, oh yeah, write a script or something, and it'll come up with some random story that sounds
Yeah.
so real. But
cameras freak me out. I'm just saying
yeah,
the fact that they can just grab something that the eye can see and just get a hold of that.
I don't know how that works either, eh?
That camera's fake.
You do this shit for a living.
Exactly. Oh,
Cameras,
yeah.
If you really
But-
think of a camera,
You think black and white, I understand that, like, it quickly takes, like, it lights it, and it fades the light or something like that, but then how does it magically see the colours and be like, oh yeah, we're putting
if
colours
you look at
on.
that camera, like that view, you're looking at the screen. You like, if that's turned off, that's a blank screen. You're not looking through it,
Yeah,
so that's a screen. So how does that capture this?
yeah.
And like, I know there's a science behind it, but
Yeah,
it's,
there
it's,
would
it's
be, but,
interesting
yeah.
to think about.
It'd just be like reflections of light and like that's
That's-
what if you were to get a scientist to tell you how camera work, that like I guarantee reflection and light would be used in their explanation about it fucking a million times.
Oh no, but
Well,
there's,
like, if you-
there's
yeah.
one camera we can't replicate, and this creeps me out to the day. So, you know Mary Poppins?
Yeah.
How there's like the freaking, they're dancing and there's all the penguins and stuff around them? They didn't have green screens like to the point that we do today. How did they make that?
What?
They had like greens, like you know how Mary Poppins, they're
Poppins,
dancing with all the
Mary
cartoon
Poppins.
penguins?
Yeah, which part of it?
No, when they're in the cartoon, they jump into the sidewalk door.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious,
And
and
they
he's
dance with the
dancing with the
foxes and that.
penguins and they're on the merry-go-round and
Oh, and
stuff.
you're saying like how the fuck they did that?
Yeah, how did they do that? Without like the technology we have today, like you'd think like animators could just like start drawing on each individual part of film, maybe, but films like that big, they had this special crystal thing. It was mess, and they can't replicate it to this day. Like they have one in the world, they look at it and they can't handcraft it. Someone has had the ability to craft this one that just magically fits into the camera, takes a picture, and then the picture warps like 6 different views, and they can't even replicate
At
it.
the end of the day, there's probably some camera scientists listening to us sound like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, true.
Like, that's fucking simple. So you got to
Yeah,
fly.
no,
That's
actually,
fucking
no, that prison's actual thing. I've
Well,
made
like-
6 of them.
But like, even like if you go further,
Six in my
if you go
hand.
further into the camera, one in the world, I've got 6. Yeah, if you dive further into it, like if you're saying, oh, it's the computer generates the shading and that, then how the fuck were they around in like 1930s?
Mary Poppins ain't that fucking
No,
hard, is
I'm
it?
talking about
No,
a camera. I'm
50s,
talking about
no.
a camera. The fucking
Yeah.
light and it like.
Maybe Wizard of Oz.
Nah,
that
but
that
they're
was
not-
the first ever colour
Nah, I
movie.
think you had it. At
Do you know what I fucking love
Yeah,
that?
Wizards.
I actually
Yeah.
proper love is the picture of the first camera ever.
Me too.
Like, have you seen that? Yeah,
it
it's
photo?
like this is the picture of the first camera ever
yeah.
made.
Yeah.
It's like, was the second camera ever made taking that fucking picture? Like, they're like, oh yeah, you know. And this camera's like fucking like 18 feet long, massive airbags all over it, and you're just like, okay, so they had another one of them on this side. It took 12 dudes to move the cunt to take a photo of that cunt.
Yeah.
And so that cunt becomes irrelevant
It's
because
like-
this cunt took
It's
the
like
first fucking photo.
The first ever video was like a train or something coming at the screen. What would your reaction be? Like, you've never seen like a
You-
video
yeah.
before. Like, you just think
That's
like
a
the
good point.
people's reaction.
You'd be shitting your
Yeah,
pants.
you've never seen like a moving picture like 2D on the wall. Like,
Yeah.
that'd be like something freaky. That'd be something out of this world.
That'd be
And
like
it would
Harry
just-
Potter. Like cunts in Harry Potter who like look at pictures on the newspaper, like when they flick on the newspaper and they see
they
like
start
shit's
moving.
moving.
Yeah,
That'd be like people back then when they're like, you know, like this is the video. People are like, what the fuck?
yeah,
And they're like, this is
Okay.
the fucking video. And then it's
Okay.
just like the camera's just like rolling.
yeah.
And they just be like, oh,
On that.
oh shit. Like,
Holy shit!
on,
Yeah,
that,
that's
on that
weird.
topic. On that topic.
And then that's when you're like,
On that
we're
topic.
in a simulation.
Yeah, but like on that topic, if you think people who are amazed by simple technological advances like that get so amazed that they just, this can't be real, this can't be real, would the human species be further advanced if like, because that's something of a wizard, and then there was all the witches and the burning of the witches and that. Would the human
that wasn't at
race-
the same time, was it? When was the first camera made?
No, it's not the
what's
same
the-
time. That's what I'm trying to say. These people have come out with these technological advances of their own time, and because it's so technological that the people of that time couldn't comprehend it,
Oh
they
yeah.
think we burn that person because it can't be real. That's magic.
When the first ever person who built a telescope and looked through and was like, "There's other planets out there. We're not alone." The Catholics were like, "Well, Jesus is a liar. How's he going to help their sins up in their planets?" Like, so they burnt him alive because he was like,
That's what I mean. Back in the day, was it
That's-
easier to kill the people who created these technological advances rather than accept them?
yeah, exactly, yeah, because they're like, oh, yep,
Yeah.
Jesus can't help them if he's helping us, so we got to get rid of that dude who's coming up with this.
Chuck her in the river. If she floats, she's a witch. If she drowns, she's normal and
Yeah,
shouldn't have
yeah.
died.
But also strap a 70-kilo rock to her. Like
So
she
if
got
she weighs
abs
the
of
same-
steel. She floating with that motherfucker.
so if she weighs the same as a duck, it hurts my brain. Hurts my brain. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Think
very
about
much
shit
so.
like that. Like that's
I don't even know
probably
what
not a
question
point that a
was.
lot of
What
people
was it?
talk about when they think about like shit.
Like,
Like, if you think about- All right, so my favorite, like one of my favorite ones that's probably coming up a lot more is the fucking the time traveler one.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, time travelers. And then people are jumping straight back at them, being like, all right, cunt. The fucking Earth rotates around the sun
Yeah,
365
yeah,
days
yeah.
a year. If you were to time travel and you were to land at the exact same point of this planet, you would be thousands of fucking kilometers, like hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the Earth because we're constantly moving. And then, but like, then you could go the one further, and you know, like, it's kind of just a game of like, but what if? But what
Time's
if?
fucked.
Like, as soon as that, so like, but what if
Don't mess with time.
that cunt figured out a way to land exactly on the Earth at the point that it was in, at the time that they wanted it to be in, and they could land at the exact same point on the planet. The planet's a sphere, you know, like the spot will still be there. And then, you know, like if their science is, oh, but if they try to jump back in, fucking no, they're going to end up fucking way elsewhere. Like, no, they might end up in the fucking ocean. And if they can't swim, they're fucked. But if they can swim, they swim the fucking nearest shore, and they'll still be back in time.
But the
You know, if they could figure out a way to know that they're in space and they're killing their fucking astronauts or their time traveling people, who's to say that they aren't figuring out a way to make them land on Earth at the point that it was, back in that time that it was there?
Time
Then-
travel's a funny one because time's different in
Yeah.
space.
I feel like if
Time's
time travel, I
different.
watched too much Back to the Future. If time
Yeah,
travel
that's
was
where
real,
I'm coming from.
we would
so-
like be seeing people from the future. Like they just come in,
Regularly,
just
like,
interrupt.
just
yeah,
chilling.
Yeah, they just interrupt all the time, and you'd be like, "Oh, yep, he's from the future."
Because
Bring me
as
with
much
you.
as you can say, don't go in the past and ruin the timeline,
Yeah.
you'll fuck everything
There'd be
up.
some
Yes,
crackhead
how
who would
many
be like,
times are you going to be like people
But-
always break the rules.
But
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what if
exactly.
what if there was like what if we aren't anywhere near technologically advanced enough to deal with that? So like, what if there's a future us that's like, you know what, the law states that you cannot time travel before year 3000. So, you know, like,
Yeah.
we can't handle it. We're that Neanderthal and we're that dumbed down
The
as a
laws
species that
Yeah.
we have to wait 1,000 years before we're actually ready for that shit. Because at the same time, like, if you go back to the aliens thing and they're like, oh, Donald Trump's going to release all the information.
Yeah.
Bullshit, he released all the fucking information on aliens.
But there's
You know,
another
like,
reason
if he
why.
did, there's a reason they kept it a secret, and that is to stop panic.
No, and
They
there's
stop
another.
from
There's
fucking
another
people
reason.
thinking
If they do have it,
Huh?
the reason they're not like giving it away is because they don't know how to control it or use it.
Yeah.
So they have it,
Yeah.
and if they had it, they'd just be like, oh yeah, we have it, but we don't know how to use it. That would
Yeah.
give everyone
Time
panic.
travel
And
is
Yeah.
real.
that's the thing with the aliens thing. Like if they had this UFO, they'd be like, oh yeah, we found a UFO, but
Every
we have
cunt
no
would
clue.
fucking go into panic.
Yeah, we
Preppers,
have no clue
like-
how to use it. Like, there's people out us with crazy technology, and they can kill us because we don't know how to use it and understand them. You know what I mean?
Every person on Doomsday Preppers on BBC
Yeah.
deserves fucking Nobel Prizes. All of them cunts.
But
They're just like, yeah, no, we knew all along.
Yeah,
We're time
yeah.
travelers.
Yeah.
go back to time travel. Yours is there's a law. Laws are broken.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a law that hasn't been broken?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
one?
Uh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, like
What
laws
the
are broken.
fuck?
Like it'd have to be more than that. Another thing is I don't believe that you can ever time travel backwards.
Yeah.
But
More.
You could probably go.
you could probably
Go
go in the
forward.
future. And that's
Why?
because
Future,
if you go into space, time travel is time travels differently in space.
Yeah, time travel fucking
you've
works.
heard-
How do you know that?
You've heard the whole because there's proof.
Right.
You've heard the whole bloody like
But,
a year
like,
in
if
space.
you go
I know
light
where
year-
Connor's
if
coming
you go like
from.
a light year
What
or
proof
something,
is there?
like kilometer, like light year speed, come back, time has just gone so quick. You've been going so slow because you're going so fast or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there actually
have to
is.
go right.
Yeah.
And
Cars
plus,
time, I get
plus,
yeah.
even if it's the same time and space.
Watch
the aging-
whichever space
Interstellar?
movie it is. Yeah, Interstellar. Yeah, is that the
Yeah.
one where he
Even
goes
if
and he
there's-
comes back and everything's like
fucked up.
Yeah.
Even if there's different, like even the time, even if you say time's the same, the aging would be different because people age on Earth differently because of the gravity pull. You're in space floating around. What's aging your body?
Yeah.
People get wrinkles because the fucking gravity is constantly tugging on there.
Is that what it is? I don't
Dicks.
fucking never knew that.
yeah.
I wasn't taught enough at bug school.
Yeah, well, imagine what we'd
I
look like
created that off the top
without
of my head, but
gravity.
it sounds pretty
It
smart.
did sound very smart.
Imagine what we'd look like without
That's why your body's
like
break
if you
down.
think how your
Okay,
body's built.
okay. Well, on
Why
that
do
fucking
old people
point, are we
need
done
to
with
get
time
new knees
travel?
out of
I
nowhere?
feel like we are.
We're done with time
yeah.
travel.
We've
Righto.
jumped. We
Yeah,
jumped
we
from
fucking
like
started.
what was the first one we talked about? The water. We talked about dinosaurs existing. We didn't even get to the dinosaur bit. We went
talked
straight to
about Matrix.
underwater.
Fuck
Then
you
we went to the
motherfuckers, we're going
Matrix.
back.
Yeah, cause
Not to dinosaurs, but we're going back to another topic. Giants. We as a species
Jotunheim.
were giants.
There we are.
I believe that, 100%.
Yeah, have you ever played
I
World
feel
of
like
War,
we're
bro?
getting like we started small and we're getting bigger.
Nah.
Nah.
I feel
like-
like
I feel
we
like-
started really big,
Nah.
and because think about it, like, alright, so
no.
when the dinosaurs were here, how big were the fucking dinosaurs?
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
Of animals, the only animals that are really like, holy fucking shit, like land animals. Sea animals were a different fucking ballpark. Them cunts were monsters. But like sea mammals were determined off the amount of carbon in the air. So, you got the likes of, you know, your Brontosaurus, your T-Rexes, your fucking Velociraptors, who were fucking monstrosity animals.
Yeah.
Right? You look at us, we got elephants, giraffes, hippos,
Yes,
rhinos.
yeah.
Those are probably like only the really big creatures. You got big creatures like fucking tigers and bears and shit, which are big animals, but they're not fossil, like they're not fucking archaeological in the museum 10 meters in the fucking air big. And so like they found
I
all these
feel like
skeletons out of
elephants and giraffes
Norway
would
and
be pretty
Ireland
close.
and Iceland and all that shit.
Yeah,
All these
but-
human skeletons that were like 11 foot tall.
Yeah.
Like 11 foot long human skeletons.
Yeah.
Like 11 foot fucking, like that's like, what? 11 feet is 4 feet taller than the tallest man ever, which was Robert Wadlow, who was 8 foot 11.
Yeah.
But
He
what
was
if
a
that's
fucking
just
monster.
because of the cycle of weather? Like, what if we were small and we grew to be that big, just because it got hotter and we needed to be like some durable, big?
But wouldn't we need to be smaller if it was
Like,
colder?
are you like referring?
No,
back
we would
like
need to be
like
bigger if it was colder.
Like a flower or some shit. Like you
Yeah,
know
but we
how
would need to be bigger
they
as
start
well.
off small and they go bigger. Like is that
Because
what
when
you're
you're
referring
bigger,
to?
there's
Maybe,
like
yeah.
you got more body warmth to
And we
warm
come
yourself up.
and like it's
if
just a
you're
cycle.
going off
Once it got
the fact
hotter,
that
we
once
grew.
were
Like
big
is that
and
what
now
you're
we're
trying to
small,
say?
Maybe,
then you go on off
yeah.
evolution.
Like,
And evolution is
Okay,
you
then,
evolve
but
to
what
better,
about-
you evolve to better the species, your
I'm just
species.
being
Exactly,
So,
yep,
super
okay,
so
okay.
growing smaller
not
would be
backing up with
better
any
because
facts, just
if you,
spitting.
in this case, growing smaller would be better because humans are the most useless when it comes to physical.
Or we
violence,
didn't
like
need to be
defending
that big
themselves.
anymore.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying
Or
to say.
because carbon got reduced in the air, even though they say the fucking
We've
carbon's in the air.
adjusted to that.
Look at, alright, let's look at a creature that is still here today, yet its fossils that we find are 3-4 meters longer than what they are today. So saltwater crocodiles, for example.
Yeah, I was about to say
Saltwater
crocodiles,
crocodiles, they have skeletons of shit where like 11, 12 meters weighing up to 8 to 10 tons. Saltwater crocodiles say, you find a fucking big one, and I mean a fucking big one, that's like 5 to 6 meters, which is still 5-6 meters shorter than these skeletons. Like what? Like they grew shorter. The amount of carbon in the air shrunk, so they didn't need to be as big.
I don't think
The
it's
fucking water went right down, so they could go right up creeks, up into the thing, and so they evolved. Humans, we had less creatures that were bigger than us, so we didn't have to be as big. So we started evolve to be shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter.
No, I think
You got
it's the-
tortoises that they have fucking
What do you think?
skeletons, they have birds, they have emus, they have
That's a
shit.
pretty good idea.
Skeletons with massive skeletons they used to find. But the thing is, they're not finding these fossils of small crocodiles. They're not finding these fossils of small emus.
Yeah.
They're finding these massive emus skeletons, and they're like, you know, like this is how big they used to be, and it's like this is how big they are now. So who's to say that humans weren't fucking 11 feet tall?
Yeah.
Could live to 300 years, you know, like that's
Yeah, why haven't we found fossils yet?
of humans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I said that at the start.
Yeah.
Iceland, Norway,
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
in the
Oh, yeah, that's
islands
right,
and
yeah.
shit.
On that, if you're saying why is everything smaller and you're basing that on the lack of carbon in the air, I do not believe that. I believe if you're going off the basis of evolution, that each species
Come on.
Pull
evolves
me one up.
for its own benefit to survive.
Mm-hmm.
What's to say that in each ecosystem, throughout over millions of years, there has been one species that has grown to dominate all the other ones. Every other species has grown to be smaller. That way, they can get away from the dominant species
Yeah.
and hide from them. So that dominant species, who is now fucking massive, doesn't have
What is it?
doesn't have the livelihood to feed itself.
Yeah.
So
What's that?
all the animals too small. It can no longer.
It's kind
because-
of like in the what's it called, the era, the industrial revolution era, like when there was all black smoke coming out.
Yeah.
All of
There was
it.
these butterflies, right? There used to be heaps of white butterflies, but they got predated because they were white. They stood out when there was all this soot
the
and
black
everything in
smoke.
the air, and then the black butterflies were the
Survived.
superior ones, and they survived. And there was only black butterflies after that. There was the white ones just died out.
So what I'm saying is these main species that you talking about were dominant, the massive ones
Not
that
being
grew
racist.
to be out dominate every other species of its time, grew to be its own worst enemy because it no longer had the prey to feed itself because they're so big. They need to eat a lot. It didn't have the food to feed itself sufficiently,
Yeah.
and then it evolved to be smaller due to such a thing.
Well, the carbon thing's an actual scientific fact. I actually should have put that up at the start, but that's
Oh, okay. So you're true. Yep, we did it. You're Mr. Right.
Ken Hovind.
Proving
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Nah,
No,
but
I reckon.
no, but like at the same time, like
Noah.
anyone
no,
listening to
but
this
Noah
right now,
has-
please understand the fact that
Okay.
we are not spitting facts right now.
Yeah,
We are
question.
talking absolute nonsense bullshit.
Out of
We're
our
just
shit.
trying to get you
Proper
thinking.
shit
Question,
we talk
question.
right now.
Go for it. Yes.
Okay, so what is the biggest time period of the biggest species on Earth, based on your carbon theory?
Huh?
That when were the species on Earth at their biggest?
Like thousands of
You
years
talking
ago.
dinosaur age?
No. Like I don't fucking know. Fuck you.
Okay, say dinosaur age.
I'm not a scientist.
Dinosaur age species are at their biggest.
Yeah.
Right? Why did they not get even bigger after the meteor that killed them all? Because there's more carbon. In
It wasn't the meteor. It was the ice age. They've come out with that.
Oh well, motherfuckers.
And I just said before, you need to be
The
bigger
ice
to
age-
have more body warmth to survive shit like that. You have more body hair. We would have grown to be hairier creatures.
What do you mean?
Like you just said that, like if we were living in an ice age, we would need to be A, either hairier, or B, need to be fatter, or C, we would need to evolve to a point where we can actually find ways to survive this shit. So if we were Neanderthals living in this fucking wreck, we would need to be A, bigger, B, hairier, or C, smart enough to figure out ways to like survive this shit. So that's probably why in a lot of colder climates,
your topic,
you've
man.
got a lot of fucking gigantic
is your
skeletons,
topic.
because these giant skeletons are only being found in Scotland, in Iceland, in Greenland, in like these Viking sort of
Hey,
you got
like
anything
things. Like you're not finding giant skeletons in China.
Yeah, but bigger doesn't mean warmer.
No. Well, yes. So maybe. Oh no! Actually, no bullshit. You've been a fat cunt, and I'm a fat cunt, and he's a fat cunt, and he's a fat cunt too. And we all know.
See everyone.
And we all know that we, A, on a hot day, could wear a shirt and sweat like a
Yeah, you're
motherfucker.
talking about
Or
fat.
B, we've been to
You're
parties.
talking about body mass.
Parties?
Yeah.
So you're
We've been
trying
to
to get
parties,
dancing
but-
next minute.
You're talking about body mass, but your argument is there is 11-foot humans.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, if you're 11 feet, you're not going to tell me that you're 11 foot and 90 kilos. You're going to tell me that you're 11 foot and you're 200 kilos.
Yeah, but why do you got to be taller to be warmer?
What?
That's
No,
what
I'm just saying that you got to be bigger.
To be
What, we
taller.
aren't, we're not going to walk around being 6 feet and fucking 300 kilos because none of us would have survived.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we had to be taller to carry our weight easier.
Hmm.
You can't tell me right now that you look differently at 6'2", which I think you are. You at 6'2", looking 100 kilos,
Or you 6
and
foot two
you
looking
being
12
5
kilos.
foot, being 100 kilos, is completely different body composition.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't find me on the spot. I watched too many documentaries.
No,
on this shit.
I'm thinking of a way to question your theory because it is pretty good. But on top of that, why are the tall people of now and the tall athletic people
Terrible?
Yeah.
They're
I feel
terrible
like-
human beings. And I think
And-
that's
and
because...
that's not, they're probably really nice human beings. Just
They're terrible.
Every theory we've said tonight, he's questioned it and he's like trying to find a way to.
Noah
break
works
it.
for the CIA.
Yeah,
he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It does.
It's the
makes the
prosecutor.
conversation-
and
You
his
got a fucking
dad
mic, like,
comes
hey, what's
down.
going on here?
Yeah,
Well,
I'll prosecute his son arguing against the
It
car.
makes the conversation.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, but
yeah.
at the same time,
Interesting.
yes,
I
I agree.
know.
But at the same time, we're heating up, are we not? Scientifically, we found out that global warming is heating up the planet, so we don't have to be as fucking big. It's actually more like efficient for us to be smaller because in the hotter climates, in the desert,
Cruising.
what creatures do you see in the desert? You don't see fucking big creatures cruising around the desert.
Camels.
See Brad Shellers.
No, but you
Look how
think
tan the
about,
cunt is
no,
now.
you think about it, like, I know, well, there's conspiracy theories and shit, like, have you ever, like, thought about, like seeing about, like, Aboriginals and shit? Like, have you ever think about, like, back in their time,
Alright.
like, this is where it's gonna mind fuck you,
Yep.
like, this is where it's like, fuck, I don't know, like, this is where I'm stuck at, like, you're saying all these stories and, like, telling all this shit, I'm like, can't, like, you think about it, like, you
No,
think
but
about-
like that's exactly right. We're inciting the conversation of, you know, like me, Noah, and I'm not sure what Clark is, but like we are Scottish Highlander background,
Yeah.
we have Viking background, and see you are
Yeah.
Indigenous background, obviously. So like
Yeah.
you have completely different
like,
stories, different
yeah,
shit
yeah,
growing
yeah.
up, like different.
Only Brad.
Yeah.
Well,
what was
fucking
Brad-
I'm just getting onto
Yeah,
it.
Brad.
Yeah, we're
Pull
just-
something up.
What?
So come up with a theory.
No, who was telling one?
You put me on the
no.
fucking.
What about
Yeah,
like,
you said
like
something
the
about
Dream
Aboriginal
Time, for example?
yeah.
So do you think the Dream Time was completely
Okay. So like,
parables that were like teaching kids about
yeah.
like,
So we
gratitude
thought, like,
and shit like that?
Yeah. Like I was like, come back as like an Aboriginal background, and like a lot of my ancestors saying like a lot about the Dream Time.
Yeah.
Like, you like obviously you've heard about a lot of the Dreamtime stories, and makes you wonder like Kadachi Man, like
Nah,
Rainbow
we'll see.
Rainbows.
No, that's. I'll
It's
get
too
you to talk
scary.
on that one for a little bit
Yeah,
because
yeah.
a lot of people do not know about Kadachi Man.
I don't
Kadachi
know
Man
about
is not a. It's not a happy Dreamtime
Can we-
story.
Yeah.
Can we
Nah,
talk
talk
about
about
it?
it.
Like,
Can we-
that's
I
what-
don't know
this is
anything
interesting.
about
This
it.
is-
And like
Tell us a story.
honestly, like when you
Who is the
talk-
Kadachi Man? Tell
Who
us
is
about the
Cohen?
Kadachi Man.
Okay, so like what I've got told, a Kadachi Man is like a man that's more like the devil kind of thing,
Yeah.
and that's gonna like if you you muck up, he's gonna take you away and like all this type of shit. I can't really explain to what the Kadachi Man is. It's like a bad spirit.
Yeah.
It's like a bad spirit. Like obviously, like it comes back to like, do you believe in ghost kind of things?
Yeah.
Like, does everyone like? Do you believe in
What's
ghosts?
so
yes.
dark and deep about that you know about him? Like, what's your
Well,
experience?
like just off Brad, like it's funny that Brad brought him up because I've heard, and this is funny because me and Brad have spoken about him a couple of times in
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And so my dad has had an experience where, so for those who don't know, my dad was a copper in Warrabinda, which is a predominantly Aboriginal community,
Yeah.
and his co-worker, like his fucking co-partner, was a heavily Aboriginal man, and Dad reckons that, you know, like it'd be like loud fucking partying through the night, or it'd just be quiet, or fucking whatever. He's like you knew that something was off, but when the Kanachi man was in town, he's like it was usually when there was a death. He's like if there was a death in town, there was an Aboriginal death, elder, whatever. He's like Kanachi man was in town, and Dad, as a young constable, bullshit. Like, you know, like
yeah.
nah, not real.
Yeah.
But Dad had a Aboriginal elder as like his senior at the station, and Dad reckons that without bullshitting whatsoever, And Dad goes, to this day, I fucking believe in Karachi Man for this reason. He reckons that his co-worker sat on the front deck and he watched a crow. Now, the fact that he said a crow was a funny one, because have you ever seen a crow at night?
No.
What? Never. You never see crows.
Never
at
see
night.
crows
Like,
at
you-
night.
Like honestly, like
If you're listening right now, think about the last time you seen a fucking crow at night.
Yeah, what the heck?
You think about it. Like,
And so he reckons he
what-
saw a crow.
I killed
Like
it.
he was sitting, and he had a street light out the front of his house. He was
Yeah.
sitting there drinking fucking Billy tea with his missus. He seen a crow fly, and then behind the street light, turn into a man and start walking along the road.
Right.
And he goes, "No." And then Dad goes, "Fuck, what did you do?" And he goes, "Nothing." He goes, "I know it was a Karachi Man. I knew there was a death in town." He goes, "I just took my missus, closed the front door,
Went to
walked
bed."
inside, and went to bed." He's like, "That's just what it is."
What,
It's a Karachi
Derek
Man."
saw
like,
that, or the
he-
Kardashian man saw it?
No, so Dad's partner saying that, and then Dad reckons that his point of contact with the Karachi Man was even fucking freakier than that, and that was he went shooting, like roo shooting, with a partner of his, and they've gone roo shooting as you do. You fucking line up a big roo, you fucking blow its brains out. But this was at a time when like spotlights and shit were not non-existent, but like they just weren't as common. So like he'd go shooting with Aboriginals who would work off silhouettes. So like you'd get real low and you look for silhouettes of big kangaroos in the moon. You go shooting on a full moon, so you know when to shoot. And then he reckons that one time he was there with a young Aboriginal fella, and he shot this kangaroo, and he goes, "There's no fucking way in hell he missed." And he reckons this kangaroo just stood there, looked at him, looked back, and just hopped off.
like
And the fella he was with goes, "That was Karachi Man.
yeah,
100%.
like I've got
I
like
did not miss that shot." And so like from there, like fucking sends shivers down my spine, because Dad would tell me, and Dad's like, 100%.
But you
Gosh,
think about
man.
all these stories, like obviously I grew up in a small town called Yulo, close to Quilpie, Cunnamulla. That's like
They would be heavy on that, would they?
Yeah,
not?
so,
Like in
like,
that
it's
and the
yeah.
the fucking Ming Ming lights as well.
yeah. I'll tell you a story. Funny enough. So like obviously Yulo is a small town. That's like way out west, about 10 hours southwest from here.
Yeah.
And like a lot of stories I got growing up, like with it was like me uncles and all that. We pop at a fucking campfire, just having a good cook up, and then like they would like bring out the old stories, and it's like a lot about the Min Min light, fucking Karachi Man, the Featherfoot, and you're just like,
What's the Featherfoot?
so the
What's the
Featherfoot,
Min light?
Ming Ming lights is like
yeah.
lights and just
Like a Min Min light, it's like a bright light that comes real close to you, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, you think about, like, so me pop told me this story, like, about a Min Min light. He used to go shearing way out west, and, he reckons, like, it was, like, a thundering, like, type night, and, like, he seen his, like, he was out on his own, like, shearing quarters, and he was looked outside, and apparently, like, he seen this light, and he come up real close, and like he got real shivers type things, and it was like fucking his light kept getting close and close, and it sort of sunburnt him, and apparently like this light came real close and just took off straight away. And there's like a lot of stories from uncles like about this one light they couldn't fucking think of, like maybe like a UFC type,
Yeah.
like not UFC, like
UFO.
UFOs. Fuck, sorry.
UFC.
Come on, son.
Knock your lights
UFO
out.
type shit.
knock your
like,
lights.
like UFO type shit, like just, and like I remember like me pop used to tell me stories, and every time he's told us stories, like the hairs on his arms used to just like go up, and
Yeah.
he used to like be real terrified.
What's the Featherfoot?
Oh, so Featherfoot's like, it's like a good and bad spirit.
Yeah.
They used to like, if you're doing wrong, he would like come and like fuck you up pretty much, and just like be like, you're doing this and this shit. He would come fuck you up just so like to scare you type thing.
Yeah.
But like my uncle told me the story. Like one time he was drunk at the Eula pub, and he fucking like didn't know his way home, and this Featherfoot like came up next to him walking home and
Is
was
it
like, No, it's like a true story. Like,
Nah, I mean like what form is a Featherfoot? Is it like a person?
it was like a human form, but like not a human form. Like
Yeah.
it was like more like an emu type thing.
Yeah.
So like, it like left emus type fucking like feathers. You know what feathers are?
Yeah.
So like, obviously
Yeah,
not feathers
thanks.
are, but like it left like no, like it left like emu feathers on the ground, and you're like, what
Like
the
as
fuck?
it'd walk, it'd leave.
Yeah,
feathers,
as it was. And then like apparently my uncle, like he told me a story fucking like, you know, when I was a little boy, I used to like believe this kind of, and like I still believe it to this day. And he was like,
Mm.
yeah, I was that fucked up, didn't know where I was going.
Yeah, that's probably why you said it too.
No, and he was like, yeah, and he was like, yeah, this apparently this fucking thing came out of nowhere. It was like walked him home apparently, walked him him and showing her where home was, and then just vanished. And then the next morning, he said to my like nan, his mother was like, so I got walked home by someone, and like can't explain to you what it was, and like it was like middle of night, and then he was like, my nan was like, yeah, that was this and this, and she's like how you know? And then she told her story, and it was like, holy fuck, that's what he told me, and it's like that's what I grew up with. So like, sort of like, I don't know, like,
Fucking like.
What the heck?
At the same time, like, you know, like,
Gives you
especially
chills.
for.
yeah.
Wouldn't that be stressful? Wouldn't that be stressful? Like you see Featherfoot rock up and you're just like, you see, you better kick this shit out of me, or it's
Like,
How you think it help me out?
There was like two things. There was like the Featherfoot and Kadachi Man. Like the Featherfoot.
You
was there.
want to see Featherfoot, you don't.
Yeah,
wanna
you'd
see
rather
Kardashian.
see the
Like you see Featherfoot and you're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck yes, thank God, and he just starts kicking
Yeah,
shit.
like if you see the like if you see the Kadachi Man, you're like, oh, can't like
I'm
I'm
fucked up.
fucked. I'm
I'm
fucked. Yeah.
dead.
But if you've seen the Featherfoot, it's like good and wrong. Like he's showing you what to do and this and that.
Yeah.
But like that's what I grew up with. Is obviously
But at
as
the
an
same
Aboriginal.
time, like spirits like that and like
Yeah.
stories like that, you know, like especially like we've all got obviously like
Yeah.
our own cultures.
Yeah.
We've all got our own stories. We've all got our own myths and beliefs and shit like that. So like stories like that, like, Raz, like, who the fuck's to say that's not true?
yeah, and
And
that's
there's
like
so
what-
many things like you call it Kadashi Man.
Yeah.
Like Kadashi Man could just be the devil.
Satan.
Could be and we all link it to
Yeah,
Feather Man.
that's-
Could
that's
be
like-
Tooth Fairy. I don't know. You could just you link it to something.
Yeah, it's all like
it all ties together. God, something else in another
Oh, fuck,
language.
Tooth
yeah,
Fairy.
that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
Not
you
the
can
Tooth
think-
Fairy.
so you can think,
Nah.
we all know
oh
it's
God, could be my fucking
What?
like Featherfoot.
Yeah.
My devil could be the Kadachi Man. Like that's like it's type of religions like
See,
you
like,
fucking,
and like, I'm a big believer in like, why the fuck do people gotta lie about this shit?
Yeah.
You know, like, no, like, there's no reason to fucking lie about this shit. And people are like, oh, you know, we go on the Amazon and we're gonna look for, you know, I seen a documentary on
Well,
spiders.
no.
But there
Piss
can be
again.
people who just
And
make
quick
bullshit
piss.
up
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
ruin it,
You
and
know,
ruin
like-
it for you.
You know what's
but there'll
worse?
be some people who
Yeah.
are like
Real quick.
who ruin their whole lives just to like I actually did see this.
You know who's worse at it? White people.
Ah.
White people are the fucking worst
Yeah.
for this shit.
Have you ever had a run in with any of those? Could actually be in Featherfoot.
Nah, like I think
What about the fucking Cabaret to Lookout? Remember that? Me, Tyson, Jack went up there.
So it's I'll explain myself. So like, obviously I got raised up between the Aboriginals' fucking like beliefs and that, which I to this day believe. So like, come to the Cabaret Lookout. I think Tyson would feel the same thing. Like,
Yeah. Well, Tyson was the first one that before we even got
yeah,
to
this is not
this
right.
sign,
Yeah,
there was a sign there that said this is an Aboriginal
yeah,
officiated, like celebrated burial ground or whatever it
Yeah.
said. And Tyson was with me and Brad and Jack, and we had Jack there, and all four of us were walking up, and it was night time.
yeah,
And Tyson goes, "We shouldn't be here."
yeah. See, and I
Straight up, he's just
Tyson
like,
said that to me, and I'm like, like I feel the same thing. Like this is not right. He's like,
Yeah.
should we tell them? I was like, but they're not gonna learn by themselves if they experience it. And then like you think about it, like on our way home, Jack Clay was freaking the fuck out, and it's like that's like
Yeah.
like it's an Aboriginal type thing.
Nah, it was
like,
it was actually next level. So like we walked up to the top, And before, like, there's a sign. If you go to the Cabaretta Lookout and you start walking up, there's a sign on the left that says this land is respected by Indigenous people, Indigenous elders, whatever. And so Tyson, before we even got to that sign, said something along the lines of, "We shouldn't be here." And so we get to the top of the lookout, which is.
When he's drunk?
It's like the Cabaretta Lookout is
it's a
amazing.
bit of
It's like
both,
this mountain that goes out into the ocean, and you can get a
But-
lookout, and there's a platform at the top, and you're at the top, and it was an eerie feeling.
You think about it though,
Like, it was 6 or 7 o'clock. We hadn't
Yeah.
been drinking. I drove there and drove home, and so like we got to the top, and it was just eerie as fuck. Like
Yeah,
the
so,
hair
like,
standing
we
up in
went-
your legs, you were just sitting there like. Fuck.
Like you think about it, like we growing up as like this is our land, like this is the land you shouldn't be on,
Yeah.
and like if you go to this land you need permission. So obviously like me and Tyson, like I've grown up from like way southwest. Tyson's from this land which is like Willa Willy country, which is like Theodore type.
What's your country?
One is Kunji,
Yeah.
Kunji tribe, which is like way.
But
out
are you like you're not completely Indigenous, are you? You're like like Islander as well. A little bit?
I never met my old man, but my mother said that like I'm a bit of Torres Strait, but
Yeah.
I don't believe that. Like I've grown up with me like old folks and like I believe this is this and that.
Yeah.
And then like coming back to that story you said, like I got told like this is the land you're allowed on. You need permission to go to this land and that.
Yeah.
And like I never believed that there's such a thing, and like I've never known Tyson's like backstory and all that shit at the
Yeah.
time. And when Tyson said that, I was just like, I'm not meant to be here. Like this doesn't feel right. And like
I remember driving these cars home after that.
yeah,
It was fucking. It was
me and
crazy.
Tyson, yeah,
it was
me and
fucking
Tyson,
crazy.
Yeah, me and Tyson were quiet as fuck, and then like
Jack
was freaking the fuck
he was
out.
stressing. He was like, "Oh, can I sleep in your room?" I was like,
Yeah.
"No, I can't." Like,
Yeah.
No, and he was just like, "No, I need to be with someone."
But like you think about like
You're right.
conspiracy theories.
he
and
didn't
all
believe
this.
he was awake. Do you-
Yeah, conspiracy
I don't know if
theories
he
and
took
all
fucking
this and that,
DMT at the
like,
top of the hill.
conspiracy theories and all that, right? Like you're not gonna. I don't know. I feel like I believe what's right's right.
Yeah.
And then you go like, no, I'm not gonna. I don't know how to say it. Not but like you're like white people. believe this and that.
Crackers.
Yeah.
I'm not racist,
No one
but like,
cares.
what the, yeah, like you got white people believing this and that, and then like you don't hear a lot about Aboriginal type stories, like
Yeah.
and that's like
Well, like if you go off, you know, like we've
a
got.
little quick piss out, bro.
Oh, fuck
Mm.
off.
Keep talking this.
But like I remember, like it's funny because it's funny that Brad brought that up because it was such like it's a memory that's instilled in my brain because we weren't drinking, we went up there and it was kind of like this is uncomfortable already, and we hadn't like it's not like it's an unsafe mountain to climb. It's a mountain you climb. There's a ramp the whole way up, and then when
What
you're
was
at the
the
top.
visuals? Like the visual weird or something?
No,
Or was
it was just black ocean. But I remember just sitting there, and
you just had thought that
it was
there's
just
dead
like,
people around you or
but
something.
like they weren't even saying anything. Like Brad and Tyson were just sitting there quietly, and Jack was the one that was like, oh shit, we shouldn't be. And I was like, but like I remember even
well, they
sitting
must have said something
before even that had happened. I remember like uncomfortableness.
Well,
But there shouldn't have been because it was a full moon. The ocean was there. Like it was fucking beautiful. Like I have so many videos on my phone from sunrises at Cabaretta Lookout, but I've never until that day that I went up there with them noticed the sign that says at the bottom. And I shit you not, there's a sign at the bottom that says this is an Indigenous respected location or some shit. Like it says something at the bottom that Tyson picked up on before we even got there. I fucking will take that to the grave. Like
Yeah.
I believe in ghosts and shit like that, and people call me
Right.
crazy. You know what? People believe in a lot of shit. Fuck people. But you know, so
well, you
like
don't go to a gravesite.
you don't go to a
And feel comfortable.
exactly
You don't go
right.
to a
You don't go to a
yeah,
cemetery
yeah.
in the middle of the night feeling okay. So why the fuck should you go to Cabaret to look
I've
at
never
it?
done that though. Has anyone done that?
Fuck no, cunt. That shit's way too
Yeah.
scary.
I don't even think I've been to like a cemetery, to be honest.
Oh, I've been to a couple of funerals. Funerals suck, man. But like I've been to
a
like
funeral, but not the actual cemetery. Like
I remember
at
they
That's
used
church.
it to a cemetery. People are dying to get in there.
Uh,
nah,
yeah, no,
but-
I've always been to the church
Oh,
ones,
fuck
but
yeah.
not actual like at the cemetery.
Nah, but they suck. They suck so much. But like you know, like shit like that. Like that's you know. So like for what it is to Brad, like I've got probably my favorite stories of like fuck this is ghostly shit. Is so my missus' father-in-law or stepfather, he is fucking cowboy as fuck. You right?
Yeah, yeah.
So he is Mr. Cow. He's Mr. Gentleman Cow. Don't get me wrong. I love
I
Carl.
got a
to
lot of
bits.
stories saying this too story, but
Yeah, so like Carl, for example, is the manliest man you will ever meet other than Chuck Norris. Like, he's a fucking man, right? So he fucking rounds up cows, he has a gun in the kitchen, that kind of man.
Eats
But,
steak, drinks
for example,
beer, fucks women.
I've had a couple of beers with him before, and he's the caretaker of John Darien House. So, for people who don't know, there was a little girl who drowned at John Darien House, and when he took over the reins there, this fucking story always makes my fucking legs, like my hair stand up on my legs. He reckons that when he started there, he would have experiences with a small 5 to 6 year old girl running. He's like, he could hear her running up, and that's all it was to start with. He'd go through the house, make sure nothing's in there, flashlight. He'd hear footsteps running up and down the hallways or up and down the house. And then he'd like as you would, freak the fuck out. Be like, who the fuck is there? Get the fuck out of the house. No one ever there. Till the day he saw her for the first time. She was wearing this white blouse,
yeah.
and he was like, this isn't real. This isn't real. I'm too tired. You know, like, made every excuse in his head to, like, I'm not seeing a ghost right now. Ignored her. Completely ignored her until it started to become, like, every single night. Every single night. Every single night. Seeing her around the house in different positions. And then when he reckons he actually took notice of her is when her presence changed. And that's when he was like, you know, sometimes I'd be out at the pool and I'd look up at the house and there wouldn't be a light on at Jimbo House. If you ever been to Jimbo House, it's a mansion. He's like, I'd be at the pool, I'd look up at the house, could clearly see her in the window.
fuck that.
So there's no fucking lights on. He's like, and then sometimes I was in the house, I look out of the pool, no fucking lights on, could clearly see her sitting by the pool. And he's like, but the story gets fucking like out there and creepy when the point went from seeing the girl to seeing the girl in different states, which was like he'd see her in the dress, dry, happy,
Yeah.
smiling, and then he'd
I
see
was
her,
waiting for that.
That's some conjuring shit.
and then
man.
he
Yeah.
would see her drowned, dead, decomposed in the dress, blood, and like he would see her in those states. And that's what fucked him up.
So, like,
but what's even
obviously-
crazier than that is that Georgia has a half sister who claims to be like psychic and like see dead people, and so
Fuck.
she
I got
would
a
have,
story to this.
and that was her imaginary friend
So like,
before even knowing any of the dead, any of the dying in the well or anything like that. Tamika lived out there. We'll fucking blur her name out. I don't know. If she's
Yeah,
a
so,
psychic,
like, I grew
but
up-
she would live out there, and that was her imaginary friend until
That's
she was
the
like
thing.
8 years
So,
old.
like,
When
I grew up.
when it's like, oh yeah, you're crazy, until it
Yeah.
links with someone else, and someone else is like copping the exact same,
And
and can
like,
explain
that's
it
exactly
word for
what it was.
word.
And Carl was like, "Oh, fuck!" Like she'd
I'm
been,
not
and she'd
crazy.
been talking about this imaginary friend for weeks, and Carl never took notice. And then she goes, "Oh yeah, no. Sometimes I see her and she's really happy, and she's in this white dress, and sometimes
That's
I see her
like-
and she looks really sad."
Have
and
you
then
ever
Carl's
seen
like,
those
"Oh,
videos?
fuck."
It's like your dad just passed away or something,
got a
and they
story
had
to
and
that
they
too,
had their,
so-
and they had their kid, and the kid goes like talks about all the things the grandfather used to
Yeah.
talk about, or like the grandfather's still alive and it's like, oh no, the grandfather's been dead, but the wife picks up on it and is like, that's my husband in the diaper just there.
That's
What?
fucked up. What's your
Talking
story,
about-
Brad?
Also, so like, you know how you're saying like you see like a bit of dead people type stuff.
Yeah.
So like, one of my uncles used to run a national farm, way west, out west, like called National like Nurukali National Farm, and like saying that like have you ever heard of like sleep fucking
Paralysis.
Oh, we talked about it last episode.
Yeah, you obviously didn't watch the last podcast.
You didn't watch the last podcast, bro. We talked about
what was the
it.
last podcast?
Cool it
We
out,
talked
bro.
about
Cool
sleep
it out.
problems and sleep paralysis and
With
shit.
who?
Me, Josh, Tran.
Nah, I mustn't have watched that. Was that last Wednesday?
Yeah, we released it on Wednesday.
Yeah, well,
You're really out of sleep.
coming back to that fucking sleep paralysis type shit. So like, my uncle used to live on a national farm, which was strictly Aboriginal land.
Yeah.
And he used to like,
So like, were all the workers Indigenous as well?
yeah. So
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it was like 2 or 3 workers at rangers. They had to go over, take care of the land.
Yeah.
And it's all strictly Aboriginal land only. And like, he used to tell me stories fucking growing up, and I like never believed him. Fucking, he used to say like, oh yeah, like when I sleep at night, like there's someone holding my chest.
Yeah.
And I used to like see someone in the corner, like an Aboriginal type lady, and I'm like, yeah, bullshit.
Yeah.
I never said that, but I was just like,
Yeah,
oh
whatever.
really?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, like,
'cause-
I don't like coming like back to it. Like fucking, remember staying till like a weekend out there. Like it was like flood season, and we used to like go there, stay in these old fucking shearing shacks, national farm type fucking shit, and like I never believed it, but like I was sleeping there one night, and I got like he used to tell me stories like, yeah, if there's like someone like you felt like someone was sleeping and you like holding you down, you used to see someone.
Yeah.
I never believed it, and like I was just like chatting away, and I was like, like I was sleeping, woke up, and I like couldn't feel myself move, but like I couldn't scream, couldn't talk, but I could see like someone on top of me, and like I could see
Like you could see who they were, or you
yeah,
could just
so,
see like an
I could,
outline or something.
like I could I couldn't
could
move
feel
my eyes,
it
but like
more
I
than
could like
anything.
see on like I could see someone there in the corner. I'm like, oh shit, like
Yeah, it's
I was like an old Aboriginal, like an ancestor, like an elder.
Could you describe him to someone and they could tell you who he was, or?
Yeah, like the next morning I told my uncle, I'm like, so I had a bit of like sleep paralysis, and I was like seeing like this elder in the corner, and he was like, yeah, like that's Auntie Betty. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, she sits in the corner of the room and just watches you sleep. And I'm like, holy fuck, like this is actually fucking serious. Like,
sleep paralysis is real. I did listen to the last podcast actually.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I
man.
did.
I edited the last
Because-
one.
Yeah,
I listened to it like 10
he'll get it just as bad.
Because when I was on it, I was actually able to relate to it because I've had it twice.
yeah.
That I can remember. I've had sleep. I've had it twice to me, and dare say tonight will be the third. but
Like you
but,
think,
but I've had it twice. I've had it once where I've on my back, and you wake up and you seriously cannot
Yeah.
move. I'm like there like that,
fucking
like
scary.
eyes wide open, cannot move. And the first time I had it, I felt like a shadow just over the top of my eye line on the top, and I was just like it. And it just felt like I was getting pushed in, like not a hand or anything, but like I was just getting like pushed in, and I was just like, fuck. And you dead set can't move, can't talk, can't do anything, and I just remember having to like force myself, like I had to, every ounce of energy I had to move, and as soon as you move your arm, it just breaks. Your whole body just relieves.
I've had fucking
your whole body
Yeah,
just relieves.
I've had that definitely once.
yes.
And then you had it, and then I heard the whole fucking you only get it when you sleep on your back.
You only get when you sleep on your back.
I
No,
slept on my side. I've
Like
never
that's like
slept
me.
on my
Like I
side.
sleep
But, like-
on my back a lot.
Well, sleep on your
You-
belly, you fat
like,
cunts.
No, but like when you're
It's
like,
not that, it's
not that. It's not
No,
fucking
but
that.
you jump, and then like, oh well, this is maybe just me, but I jump, and I'm still thinking about like freaking. And it's just like an intense feeling, like just like, whoa, that was all of a sudden, and then I'm like, I haven't even been drinking or anything. What's going on? And then it's just like this dark figure, like you just think of in the hallway, and it just haunts you for a bit, and then you close your eyes, and then boom, it happens again. You're like, what the heck?
Like what I've had like growing up, like back in your lives, like I got told like all these stories. So like this is fucked up. Like, so the general store back in Eula got burnt down, and then my nan said like, yeah, I knew it was getting burnt down because I seen this figure in the lounge room just go from like left to fucking right. And I seen it, and like I thought I seen the same thing, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just fucking my sister fucking around on the couch or something. She's just fucking. And then like next minute, 5 minutes later, fucking pub burnt down, blew up, burnt down, and then
The
like
country pubs burned down on the fucking.
Yeah, the tavern's too much to be.
No, but
You
the
got
thing,
wear
like,
foreign insurance.
Mary's.
yeah, it wasn't that though. Like, have you ever? No one's ever been to Eula, have they? Eula's a fucking. Cunt. You close your eyes,
Isn't it
cunt. You
each
fucking
other?
going out to Thargomindah, Quilpie fucking type shit.
Is it?
Oh, so you're superior to Drew. Drew's further out than you.
Yeah, it's like, so there was a lot. There's
They
like
got 3 days on KFC.
bullshit.
It's a 3-day
So,
trek to the nearest.
Nah, it was funny because when Drew was telling the story, he's like, nah, way out west you might know it's just Charleville or some shit. I was like, cunt,
Eula's there.
you was fucking right there, cunt. What the fuck are you on about? I was like, Drew, come on, mate. There's like,
So do you think there was like these spirits almost were like telling you that this shit was gonna happen?
yeah, so like, my nan used to say, like, if something bad was gonna happen, you would see a spirit. So, like, in our fucking, like, so there was a lounge room, living room. In our fucking living room, there was, like, a cupboard. Used to be, like, old fucking, like, clapsticks, didgeridoos, fucking, like, you name it, we had it. And then, like, my nan reckons, like, talking back to that fucking Eula pub fucking burnt down. Like, she reckons she's seen the spirit, and she just ignored it. Next minute, fucking bang, cunt, like, just pub burnt down and all this shit. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know, like, I'm still thinking about, like, maybe she's talking shit because she's old and fucking got, like, dementia or some shit, but, like, I would never talk shit about my nan, but, like, when she says that shit, I'm like, yeah, right.
You know, like, so,
Sick, bro.
like, what I was gonna say before is that, like, you know, like, white people have been the worst at lying about shit. You know, like,
Yeah.
Bigfoot ain't fucking real. Not a chance in hell is Bigfoot fucking real.
Yeah, if there was one, there's.
If there was
20.
Bigfoot, they'd find fucking 20
Yeah,
of the cunts, and
yeah,
they would have
exactly.
fucking wiped them
That
cunts
was my
off the
next
face.
question,
Yeah, exactly.
about the conspiracy type shit. Like, you know, fucking the Loch Ness Monster.
I believe in the Loch Ness Monster.
Is it?
Oh yeah, but Bigfoot's bullshit.
Yeah. Is the Loch Ness Monster like? Is it only from Scotland?
Well, did you know that?
Or is it
Okay,
from
so
fucking, did it go somewhere
nah, fuck
else?
this shit,
and
right?
fucking, like,
I am full. Like I got Scottish fucking blood.
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
I'm
this is
these
what I'm
veins.
That's
trying to
what
say,
Loch
like,
Ness Monster is real.
So I'm saying right now that there is channels, like very, very, you know, like I say, the only way I can put this is like, you know, Finding Nemo.
yeah.
When what's the
That
turtle's
cunt
name?
goes up
Rock and
into
roll. The rock and roll fucking
Turtle, yeah.
Squash's dad, Squishy's
Yeah,
dad.
what was his name?
And they go, you know, like,
Oh, it's
you know,
like
dude,
Tad or
we got to
something.
hit the fucking, like, we got to hit this channel.
Yeah.
And they hit the channel and they fucking boom, take off. So
Hyperdrive.
there are channels like that under Scotland, which go through like Japan and China, where Japan and China, no one talks about this because it's called like or whatever, but like it's the same description they give for the Loch Ness Monster. So they believe that Loch Ness Monster travels through these channels, and because it's being sighted up until today, like the Loch Ness Monster's last sighting wasn't that long ago. It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, like that. Like there were reportings of the Loch Ness Monster being sighted 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Was
was
it
it?
in the Loch Ness?
Was it? A,
Yes, it was. It was in
was
the
it
Loch
a
Ness,
worthy
but there were
source, or
reportings
was it
of
some
the
cuckoo
sightings.
who's like, oh, look at me.
There were reportings of sightings in Japan and China as well, which they believe these fucking things go up to. I would love to talk about one conspiracy just quickly,
Yeah, go on.
which I watched this week, which is fucking interesting, and I guarantee if you watch
The
it, you'll become a
Babadook
believer.
isn't real, Connor.
A Babadook scary fucking movie. Don't watch it.
What is it? What is it?
The Babadook.
Yeah, what's that?
Mermaids come.
Second scariest.
Yeah,
movie.
see, I fucking... I don't-
Watch this fucking. Go on YouTube, look up mermaid documentary, watch it. 100% mermaids are fucking real. I don't know, just look up mermaid documentary and fucking probably. I don't imagine there's.
See, I see a lot
need
of
to know
fucking
why.
YouTube shite
Alright.
shit about this stuff.
So
know why.
within the documentary, they talk about the fact that their first bit of evidence that there was something greater than ourselves and any creature we ever knew was that there was a culling. You know how like you see whales and dolphins wash up on shores all the time? They had sonar detectors in the ocean at the time that were detecting the sounds that the whales and dolphins were giving off before they all washed up on the shore. So if you listen to the sonar recording, you hear all these dolphins and whales going back and forth. You know, like they say that these creatures can talk to each other. So that's what they believed it was. It was these, not the dolphins and the whales talking to each other. It was the dolphins talking to the dolphins, whales talking to the whales. But there's this sudden outburst of this sonar recording, which is that higher than blue whales. And blue whales, as we know it, are the loudest creature on the planet in comparison to their surroundings. So they heard this sonar recording, which they believe killed all these dolphins and whales. They don't know why it happened. And they believe that if it was mermaid, and it's a funny documentary to watch because the scientists in the documentary have the highest credentials of any marine scientist ever, and so every single time they're like, you know, we thought it was mermaids, but we're not saying it's mermaids. Like they say that after every comment they make, they're like, we're not saying it's mermaids. We're just saying there was a creature out there that made sonar recordings higher than that of blue whales, which are the highest recordings on the planet. And so they talk about that for a little bit, and they say like, you know, like this is what's happening out there, and then. but then they say like, you know, like this is happening, and then all of a sudden, they put sonar devices all over the planet. Next thing you know, sonar devices are picking up all over the fucking planet these same recordings. Thing is, out of like the 10 places they're putting these recordings, blue whales don't even fucking travel there. So they're like, it's not fucking blue whales, it's something. And then they thought it was like a fucking, you know, like a weapon. It was like weaponized by the Russians or the Japanese or the Chinese or some shit. Nah. All these countries denied it, whether they denied it and then they still did it. Who gives a fuck? So like they did that until suddenly they do these recordings for years and years and years. And then suddenly in Cape York in South Africa, no, it's not Cape York. What is?
I was going to say,
what's
like,
in
Yeah.
Cape Town? In Cape Town in South Africa, they pull up a bull shark. Now all of a sudden they cut open this bull shark and they find multiple things. They find the spinal system of a human, but that's all they find. So they find the spinal system of a human being. They find what they thought was a is that a dorsal fin, the bottom fin, or the tail fin?
Yeah,
They find the tail fin of a dugong, except so marine biologists, they cut the shark open. They go, righto, that is definitely a human being's spine. They go, that is definitely a dugong's tail,
Yeah, but
right?
Sharks can't have both.
But the thing is, dugongs' tails don't have bones in them.
that's what
So
they
they
say.
pulled this dugong tail out and they x-rayed it, and it has bones. It has 4 different bones going through it, and the only way they can describe these bones is that of finger bones, because they're like, you know how like we got knuckles, so like they're like
in
go
parallel
skinny,
with
long,
each other.
skinny, thick, skinny, thick, skinny, thick, and so they're like this tail has like almost like that in its tail, and it has like the skinny, thick, skinny, thick, skinny, thick. It has knuckles in the tail. They're like, dugongs don't have that. Dugongs have cartilage, so if you x-ray a dugong's tail, there's no bones whatsoever. So like we found that. And then we found a skull. But the skull was almost that of like the top half of a human being's skull with an indent in the forehead, which they believe to be a blowhole or what they used to communicate with and make this sound. So they talk about this and like still they're like, we're not saying it's mermaids, we're just saying. And then they go into the non-evidence, and they're like, you know, like, what is the one mythical creature that is in every single cultural sea life's fucking stories, and it's mermaids.
Mermaids,
You know, like
yeah,
you
that's
know, like you
I
got the
was
Japanese,
watching,
and the Japanese don't have sea monsters, but they have mermaids in theirs, and then they got the Chinese, and the Chinese have mermaids, and then the Icelanders they got fucking mermaids.
You know
and
how
the English
aliens
shit
like have like that big head, like this
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing? Well,
For the massive
yeah,
brain.
exactly. And like how Indiana Jones, like the crystal skull or whatever,
Mm.
they're actually like a real thing, and people are like kind of like, yeah, that's bullshit.
Brushing it
crystal
off.
skulls. Yeah, because like they find these different ones in separate places of the planet, and they're like they look the exact same,
Yeah,
and they're just like, oh yeah, someone's polished this down, but people didn't know how to polish back 1800 years ago. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't carve it, these crystals, because they'd just break. So the only way you could do it is polish, but it's so like smooth, like it's like this is like crazy, like this is real, like this,
Right,
this
it is,
can't be
like-
crafted.
and you
And-
think about like this shit, like you know, maybe all these alien movies, all these creations, all this shit of like
It's
this
been
is what we are,
referenced or
is
influenced
being
off something.
slowly like spoon fed to us,
Yeah,
so that one day they can go, oh, aliens are real, and we go, yeah, whatever.
yeah, we knew.
You know, like
Cool.
we've watched the Alien, we've watched E.T., we've watched all this
Yeah,
shit.
exactly.
We've been accustomed to alien, we've known without knowing that aliens have been here for years. We can't say hundreds of years. Film and TV has only been around for what, 100 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the
So like for 100 years.
Back to the camera. We've done full circle.
So you
Feel
know,
like
like
we have,
so,
yeah.
ever since there's been a camera in front of us and we've been able to record, there have been aliens, right?
Yeah.
So like, of course, like maybe you know, like we say that they aren't gonna be like aliens are real. We have UFOs. We have alien technology because it's gonna scare the fuck out of everyone. Everyone will go underground. Everyone will fucking start freaking the fuck out,
Yeah.
and you know shit's gonna go south. So why wouldn't they just be like, you know, spoon feed us little bits of like, oh yeah, this is an alien. This is what aliens look like. Or alien movies, and they're like, you know, oh, it's all
Well,
fake. It's all fake.
the
And so
theory
one day
is-
when we go, oh fuck, it's an alien, we go, oh yeah, you look exactly
Well,
like
the
it.
alien thing, like the dude who was like working on the aliens, and they shut him down. They got rid of all his like university info and all this stuff. But all his friends who went to that uni were like, yeah, he went to uni with us. But they legit deleted his bachelor records, deleted all this stuff, and that only just made it more clear that he actually worked on this stuff.
Yeah,
And it's kind of because everyone else who was like there,
backed in.
yeah, but the ones who come clear, they've also disappeared off the earth as well. But they took a photo of the file where he's not on the name, and they are, but now they've disappeared off the.
What
too.
are you saying? Like,
So that's weird to think that he's like, and when he's on the podcast, Joe, he's like, I can't say any more names because if I say any more names, they're just
them
gonna
can't
disappear.
forget. Yeah. Well, see, like that mermaid documentary literally ends with them being like, we walked, like there was 3 of them, and the first guy is like, I had to convince my colleagues that this was like an actual investigation, and then so 2 of these colleagues come forward and they're like, you know, like the highest credentials in marine biology and everything, like they put everything on the line to back this shit. And the next thing you know, the documentary ends with the CIA and the FBI come through, took every single bit of our evidence except for the recordings of the sonar sounds,
Mm.
and then they go, we aren't going to investigate anymore because we believe that if there are mermaids out there, we don't want them to be discovered by human beings because human beings has done nothing except destroy every new bit of culture, nature, everything.
Yeah.
Humans has like, you know, like we've hunted to extinction. If we could find a way to bring mermaids up, like if mermaids were real and we could find a way to bring them to the surface or lure them, there'd be mermaid handbags, mermaid jackets, fucking mermaid
I agree
fucking
with that. I agree.
Yeah.
What's
mermaid
the-
burgers.
What's the?
Favorite. Yeah.
Huh?
I just don't get it. What's the fear in that? If we want to keep mermaids a secret,
Here you go,
they're
Connor.
own good.
Here you go, Connor.
What's to stop
To
mermaids?
finish it off.
What's to stop mermaids showing themselves?
Why the fuck would they want to show themselves?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm about to say.
Because they're not smart.
Maybe
Who's
not
to say that
smart
They are,
because
maybe
they know
they're this
that.
other civilization that we've.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
caught.
Yeah.
Well, if they're smart, then like, how they get caught?
But I feel like
There's one that's been eaten by a bull shark.
if
down.
people
That's
have
an unlucky
No,
dude.
no,
of the
What'd
But
you
if
say?
people have the
No,
same
no, Connor,
intelligence
what'd you
as
just
us,
say?
They'd be half curious
What'd
as well.
you-
Be like, oh yeah, I want to go
Right.
find another civilization like we want to right now.
Yeah.
Connor,
we
no.
want.
No. What'd you just say?
What?
Something about fucking bull sharks eating a mermaid or something. What'd you say?
I fucking said that before.
Yeah.
Maybe you weren't here.
What's wrong
Any-
here? I heard
any-
it. I
There's
was
a bull
wondering-
shark that ate a mermaid.
Yeah.
So like
And
Noah was
Duke
saying,
on
why
Tele.
have we found any mermaids? Like
Anyway,
there's
but-
one
but
unlucky
there's-
cunt who got eaten by a
Where's the
bull shark.
fucking where's the proof
Oh my god.
that that's what I'm trying
Right,
to
I
say.
literally
What's
just
the
said
red
FBI.
flag?
No,
I
no.
literally
no.
just said the
No,
FBI and
the
CIA
thing
come
with
through and
mermaids-
cleaned out
Yeah,
all their
The
fucking
thing that I
evidence
don't
and
get
shit.
is why are they such a thing to hide?
That's
see,
what
like-
makes it even more scarier. To
It's
think
like
about.
giant.
Because
Maybe
if
there's
something is rare and something is new,
no,
we as a species exploit it beyond the point of it being rare,
yeah, but
new,
maybe
exciting.
it's
Okay,
something so
okay,
that like this
I'll-
sonar thing that
okay.
they've discovered or whatever
got
that
a
they have.
Mhm.
If the
Got a
Russians
question.
got a hold of that, or if like China figured out the superpower of this sonar thing, America would just be like, we need to keep this under wraps because
Nah.
if they figured it out
Nah,
before us,
nah.
we'd
They've
be.
probably got like 20 fucking mermaids in tanks. in
Exactly,
fucking-
exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Like, that'd be
Dick,
dead.
I got that's what I'm saying. So like, you know how Connor just said like, what if mermaids don't want to fucking come out or some shit like giants and shit.
Yeah.
But you think about it, like, why does no one want to know what the like Aboriginal culture like? There's a Mimin like there's a fucking Karachi
That's
man.
just scary.
Yeah, but what scares them? Like, you got a Karachi man. What scares them from the fucking giants? Like, think about it. We're not the giants. We're the fucking like little
Nah, that's
fucking
exactly right.
creatures.
They're-
Elves.
well, like,
we're
if-
the elves in the fucking.
If my theory's right, but there would be like Aboriginal giants. Like if you think about it, like if you break it right down,
With them.
all right, there are
listening, yeah.
there are some like like yourself like
Yeah.
really tall Aboriginals.
Yeah.
And so like you come across them and you're like, fuck, like you don't have any Highland background, you have no Viking background.
Yeah.
You are this is your background, this is your cultural background, and so it's like, well, fuck, like there's no reason to say that that's not what it is, and you're exactly right. Like, why hasn't? But that could come back to anything. That could come back to the fact that like, why has none of this shit been investigated, but yet we think we're good enough to fucking go to space?
Yeah.
Like we don't think about this shit, and like
There was.
we've been on for a while now. I don't even want to get into exorcism and shit like that. Cause
No,
I'll fucking go on
but
forever.
the last question I gotta say is like, how do you know? Like, how do people know that Earth is like the moon is real?
Oh fuck.
Like that's what I say. Like, how do people know that the moon is real? Like you obviously you got fucking NASA. Like, how do you know these cunts aren't talking shit? Like, maybe there's not like another planet out there, like not another moon out there. Like, how do these cunts aren't
There's other
talking
moons.
shit? Like, think about
There's
it.
other
Like, no. And my
What
other
do we
question,
see in the sky
no.
Every night.
My other question is like, you know how everyone talks about fucking zombies and shit? Like, oh yeah, zombies grew up from the dead. Like, how do people know that zombies aren't real? Like,
zombies aren't real, Brad.
but you think about it. You
Someone
see,
just was like-
no. You think about little fucking movies and
Yeah.
type shit.
Yeah, but
like,
I feel like that's just a
You can't go-
re-adaptation
you can't
of
go viewers.
like of a pandemic or something.
Yeah,
like,
that's for an entertainment.
yeah,
purpose,
they're like, oh yeah, what if the pandemic made people still live, but they're like killer? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, actually, if you
okay.
take zombies out of the equation, out of a lot of zombie movies, and you put it with like
disease.
the bank's downfall, like the stock prices go right down, banks collapse. Same shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Cunts are gonna be stealing from their fucking neighbours potatoes and shit just to survive. Banks are gonna shut. Fuel is gonna
What-
go right up. Fuel will become a fucking main resource.
What if all these theories of like aliens and like zombie or whatever it is, it's just an over-exaggerated like
Yeah.
reality of
My
like
last-
something just
before
so
we
simple.
leave this
Yeah,
fucking
you know what that is what?
Yeah,
conversation.
Bradley.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
The reason
how
we're
well
able-
do you know your history?
No, wait, stop. I want
There's
to
the reason we're able to think of all these, whatever. What are they? Some theories, conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
The reason we're able to do this is because as a human being, we're at a state in our life that we're comfortable enough with our own survival to
Yeah.
to think so broadly.
Yeah.
Because every other animal at the moment is thinking, how the fuck am I getting to sleep? How the fuck am I eating tomorrow? How the
Yeah.
fuck am I surviving?
That's it. Yeah,
But the humans are
we got
the
so
only-
much time to think.
Yeah, we're the only species
We're
that is
fucked
actually
up species,
comfortable
man.
enough to have these
Okay.
conversations.
Yeah.
Have these thoughts.
So,
Exactly.
hear me out, alright?
Where the fuck am I?
How well do you know your history? Yeah?
Not well.
So, does anyone know fucking Martin Luther King Jr.?
Yes.
No.
Well, how well do you know him?
He got assassinated.
How?
I don't know.
Like by who?
Oh, I don't know. Did he get shot?
So,
You know him? That's not even your history.
Yeah,
No,
you're
well, this
looking,
is-
now
no,
you're
no.
looking it
it's a
up.
fucking conspiracy theory that
Yeah,
I'm
where you
looking
looking
to-
up? Oh, what do you got on your phone?
Yeah, what's on
right
your
now?
phone, man?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's my conspiracy theory. It's
I think
like,
Brad's gone.
the moon isn't real.
What?
Think about it.
The moon isn't real.
Yeah, you think about it. Not a lot of people
We
know
got 1
that-
minute left on that camera,
Nah,
so
well,
should we call
no,
it a
Quick,
No.
finish it up.
Okay.
You got 30 seconds to finish it up. Go.
Oh, well, we already spoke about fucking Loch Ness Monsters fucking...
Thanks for the episode.
We're not
Please
living-
buy the podcast
Fuck
merch.
this shit.
We got-
No, fuck
got
you.
zero
Thank you
cents.
so much for listening. This is the late night of the podcast. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Buy
listening.
the-
We
watch
love
the-
you people.
Pubcats.
Podcats.org for the fucking merch.
Like and subscribe.
Like
I'm
and
going to the
subscribe on
fucking pub
YouTube.
because I need
Thank
to
you so
fucking
much.
poke you.